welcome back to the United Stand. It is Ruben Amorim's press conference reaction to before the Brighton game. Games quick and fast. Games come in thick, quick and fast. Ruben Amorim speaks about lack of training sessions because the amount of games he has to play, about how we probably will see more turbulent results throughout the season. He watched the game yesterday. He understands. He warned us about this. Even in the Everton game, when everybody was singing Amorim's praises, he warned us that a storm was coming. That storm is still going to come for the rest of the season until he can get proper training sessions with his players. Speaks about how the players aren't used to playing a possession-based style of football. They are still transition types players, stuff that a lot of the fans have been talking about. Also some news on Joshua Zirkzee, very close to joining Juventus, but has decided to stay at Manchester United, with Manchester United rejecting a firm offer from Juventus with a loan obligation to buy. That's coming from Fabrizio Romano, so we'll talk about that. Also, Ruben Amorim saying he wants to keep his players and defending Rasmus Hojlund, saying it's a team thing, not an individual thing. We'll get into all the quotes, get your comments in, let us know what your thoughts are. Isn't it mad? Game yesterday, already a press conference for the Brighton game. Games coming thick and fast. We have Europa League football as well next week. I love having midweek games, but when Ruben Amorim needs time to train the players, it just means that we can't develop at the rate that we need to. You've seen what happened when he had them training sessions before the Arsenal game and before the Liverpool game. You could see the development in the players. When you have games quick and fast, it's hard to teach the players what he needs to teach them, but also fatigue as well. He speaks about Ugarte in the short turnaround. So really good stuff from Ruben Amorim in terms of some details that Manchester United fans want to know going into the future games, because I think a lot of people think, Ahmad hat-trick covers it all up, but it doesn't. We know that there's deeper issues within the team, and Ruben Amorim needs more time to work on it. So expect some bad results. And if we play like we did against Southampton in future games, it's going to be tricky. I've seen a lot of people saying we're going to beat Brighton on Sunday. I hope we do. But we need to play a hell of a lot better than we did at Old Trafford yesterday. But let's get into the quote. So Ruben Amorim has said if he's been angry with his Manchester United squad at half-time, he said, no, I think the best thing is to help the players to be calm and try to explain things that we need to change. Then we will have time to be angry with them. I think I said that against Southampton, I felt some players were tired, and then they are tired, but they are trying. I have the responsibility to help them and change them, and that is my job. I came out before the team during the half-time to explain to Antony what I needed from him on the pitch, and that was the only reason. So Ruben Amorim saying at half-time there's no point getting really angry. I mean, I would love to be a fly on the wall in his dressing room talks, because I honestly think he's the type of manager that will get his message into his players. I would love to see a behind-the-scenes documentary on Ruben Amorim working at Manchester United from top to bottom. I think that would be absolutely fantastic. Whether Manchester United would ever let the cameras in, that's a different story. Apparently, Sir Jim Ratcliffe is filming behind the scenes, but it's like his own camera crew, and whether that'll ever come out, but I saw something around that. But I would love to see Amorim's team talks. But what he was basically getting at is a lot of the players were fatigued from the Liverpool game. A lot of these players haven't got the capability of playing at the intensity that he needs twice a week. And that's something that they're going to have to work on. That's something that they're going to have to train. And that's something that Ruben Amorim is going to have to address in the pre-season. It starts with getting athletic players in, getting players that can cope with the physical demands of the Premier League. And it also means having training sessions to build up the players' fitness. You cannot automatically make a team much fitter during a Premier League season where most of the time you have 2 games a week. It's just impossible to do so. So Ruben Amorim's got to work what he's got. We have a lot of players that have quality but don't have the physical capabilities to do it over the course of 2 games a week, 90 minutes. And that's why he's had to sub a lot of players. That's why he had to rotate during his early days at Manchester United. And he speaks about that's why he had to bring Ugarte off. He had to bring Mainu off. These players are tired, especially when you play in 10 men. For the amount of time that we did going into extra time, it's going to affect the players. Not everyone is at the 100% fitness levels that we need to play Ruben Amorim's system at the intensity he wants in the Premier League. So that has affected a lot of players. He said that the mentality is there. It's just the fatigue mentally and physically that can affect you. He also got asked about Antony potentially leaving this month. He says, I want to... Oh, wait. Apparently there's an Ornstein. Wait. Hold on. Hold on. Ornstein bomber I'm being told about. Are people having me on? Oh, wow. Okay, I've seen it now. Coming in... Sorry, I'm going to have to put the Antony loan news from Ruben Amorim on hold for a second. I know. You guys couldn't wait to hear what was being said by Ruben Amorim on Antony going out on loan, but I'll have to pause that because David Ornstein has just put this out. David Ornstein does not put things out for no reason. When he puts something out, it is usually 99.9%. Actually, everything I've ever read from David Ornstein has basically been 100% accurate, I'm pretty sure. So when he puts something out, it's for a reason, and it's very, very reliable. He is the top tier of journalists, and he has put out, Chelsea make inquiries on Alejandro Garnacho and Jamie Gittins. Dortmund wingers among multiple options of interest to Chelsea for potential signing in the wide attacking areas. Conversations at an early stage, but both 20-year-olds under consideration. So Plettigol put out earlier that Manchester United were monitoring Jamie Gittins, the English winger who plays for Dortmund. And now David Ornstein is saying that Jamie Gittins and Alejandro Garnacho are both options of wingers that Chelsea are monitoring and considering making inquiries on. Making inquiries around Alejandro Garnacho and Jamie Gittins, conversations that's early stage, but both under consideration. First of all, no. And a lot of you will say, Beth, you said you'd be open to selling Garnacho on the morning show, and if it was the right money, then maybe we should consider it if he's not right for Amorim's system. We don't need to go over that again. You can watch the morning show. I recommend you do. Take a shot every time I say system. You'd end up absolutely blackout drunk by the end of that show. But it's different when you're selling to a club that is your rival club in the same league. It would absolutely kill me to see Alejandro Garnacho put on a Chelsea shirt. I cannot lie. It would absolutely kill me. I can't see that. I can't see it. And you might be saying, well, yeah, you'd sell him to Napoli, but you wouldn't sell him to Chelsea. It's not as if I want to sell him. If we have to get the money and a big enough offer is there and Amorim says, yes, he can go, then I am open to him going to Napoli. And I hope he has the best career if that does happen. But going to Chelsea, I'm sorry, it's a different ballgame. Chelsea is a rival within the Premier League. They are actually doing better than us, which also hurts as well. It's just a no for me. Like, to watch him flourish right in front of our faces in the Premier League, I just wouldn't want to see it. I mean, I'm not saying Alejandro Garnacho is ever going to be Cole Palmer, because I think Cole Palmer's one of the best players in the league. But Man City did that with Cole Palmer. And if you ask Man City, do you regret selling Cole Palmer? They'd probably say no, because, you know, they wouldn't want to come across as if they'd regret that decision. But if you asked a lot of their fans, they'd say, I wish we would have kept him. Like, obviously, he's one of the best players in the league, and they definitely could have done with him this season. I just don't want to see that happen to us. City can get away with it because of the amount of squad depth they have, and they can just go and spend 200 million in a January transfer window and things aren't going Pep's way. They can just go and give Erling Haaland a 10-year contract on 500 grand a week. Like, that's what they do. Manchester United, what do we do when we're struggling? We've got a contract extension for Harry Maguire. Love Harry. He's doing a fantastic job. But we're not actually bringing anybody in. And we might end up signing Kobe Mainoo on a new deal, which would be great. We've given Ahmad a new contract. They're all good stuff, but look what City do when they're struggling compared to what we can do. So they've got the facilities to be able to cover that up. The fact that, you know, they sold Cole Palmer to Chelsea for, was it around 40 million? And at that time, a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, City have robbed Chelsea. He went on and did fantastically well. He's one of the best players in the league. Alejandro Garnacho is only 20 years old. I would not like to go and see him put on a Chelsea shirt and run that risk. I do think Cole Palmer is a better player, and I do think Cole Palmer has probably a higher ceiling. But Alejandro Garnacho is a talented player at 20 years old. He goes to Chelsea, he starts ripping it up for them. It would kill me. It would absolutely kill me. So for me, it would be a no. It would be a no. To Chelsea. But get in the comments, what do you think on that? David Ornstein does not put stuff out for no reason. There will be serious inquiries going on for David Ornstein to put that out. So that is a genuine possibility. And if you're Alejandro Garnacho, do you weigh that move up? I mean, how many wide players do Chelsea actually need, by the way? We've already given you Sancho. Okay. Not happy with Sancho now? That's going to be 25 million at the end of the season, because you are going to finish in the top half of the table. You've got Neto, you've got Mudryk, you've got Madueke, probably players that I'm missing. Like, how many wide players do Chelsea actually need? I know they're a big part of Enzo Maresca's system and the way he plays, but wow, like, you really need another winger? I'd be focusing on getting an out-and-out number 9 if I was Chelsea, rather than another winger, to be honest with you. But I would not want to see Alejandro Garnacho go to Chelsea, I'm going to be honest. Do not sell him to a Premier League rival. Do not. Do not. I would not be for that. I would not, because how embarrassing as well would it be if we sold Garnacho to Chelsea, he ended up smashing it out the park for them, and we ended up paying 60 million for Mount, who can't stay fit for more than 2 weeks. Do you know what I mean? Like, I actually think, and someone was having a go at me this morning saying, Beth, you said Mount was going to be a good signing for Manchester United. I still think he's a good player. I'm not the medical team. I'm not someone who can tell that someone's going to get injured every single week. But it'd just be embarrassing. Manchester United, we don't need that embarrassment. We don't need to run the risk of that embarrassment. And yeah, I wouldn't like to see that. If we were to sell Alejandro Garnacho, for me, it would have to be to a different league in Europe. But get in the comments down below your thoughts on that. Any updates surrounding that David Ornstein report there, we will bring them to you. But David Ornstein, the first to be reporting that Alejandro Garnacho is of interest of Chelsea, and they have made inquiries about that player. Anyway, back to Ruben Amorim's press conference. A little bit of pause there. Another player that might be exiting is Antony. So he gets asked on the potential of Antony leaving this month on loan, and he said, I want to keep my players. I don't know what is going to happen this window. We will see. He did a good job against Southampton. So Ruben Amorim there, I want to keep my players. I mean, he's never going to come out and be like, oh yeah, buzzing, let's get Antony out on loan, let's sell Garnacho. He's just not going to do that. No manager's going to come out and do that. But he said this multiple times, he wants to keep his players. Is it because he genuinely wants to keep these players because he knows that nobody's really going to come in? Is it just, you know, to please the press because you're not going to put out there that you want these players to go? It's interesting. It was interesting that Antony was his first sub, and I don't think anybody saw that coming at half-time in the game yesterday. Like I said, a lot of people, I've seen some comments on the morning show, a lot of people getting carried away with the comment that I said that I feel like Ahmad and Antony work well together and it gives us more width, and people in the comments were like, you're clueless, Antony, give him width, he always comes inside. Antony coming inside gives Ahmad more space to go on the outside. Gives him that space to get on the outside, and how many times did we see them interchanging? It's not Antony specifically, it's just having an attack-minded right wing back and right winger working together. That's what it was. That's what I was trying to get at. But to be honest with you, I know a lot of people say Antony needs to leave, Antony needs to leave, Antony needs to leave. In the summer, absolutely. In the summer, he needs to leave. But if we're not bringing in anybody this window and we're not bringing in a wing back, I would keep him, because the offer that's on the table is Real Betis, and I bet they won't even pay half of his wage. I know the report coming out from Ben Jacobs is that Manchester United would have to pay a considerable amount of Antony's wage. Why would we basically pay the majority of his wage for him to go and play for somebody else? Keep until the end of the season as a wing-back option. He gives you an attacking outlet as a wing-back. He's not the future of Manchester United. In the summer, absolutely, we need to find a solution. He needs to go. But at this moment in time, are we going to bring a wing-back in January? No. What happens if, you know, Dalot gets sent off again, or Dalot gets injured, or Mazraoui gets injured? Malacia clearly isn't fancied by Amorim either. I think you've got to keep him as an attacking option as a wing-back, if the only offer is a Real Betis loan where, they're going to give you, maybe a quarter, a third of his wage? What's the point? You might as well just keep him if you're going to be paying his wage anyway. And at least give Amorim the option to use him until the end of the season. Unless we're actually getting money from it, then what's the point, to be honest with you? Nish, oh God, and then I'm seeing people in the chat saying, so then why are you getting rid of Garnacho? I don't want to get rid of Garnacho. I've tried to explain it so many times. You are not going to get any money for Antony. You are not going to get any money. With Alejandro Garnacho, the reason why we might have to consider it is because a club out there might give us a significant fee that will help us bring players in and work for PSR. That's the only reason. That's why I don't like PSR. I don't like the way it works, because you're in a situation where it'd be more beneficial for the club to, financially, to cash in on a Garnacho than it would be to cash in on an Antony, when realistically you'd much rather keep a Garnacho than you would an Antony. But that's not how PSR works, and it's frustrating, and I don't like it, because it encourages clubs to sell their academy players, and I don't like that. And I don't think I think we need to look at them rules and try and amend them, to be honest with you. But that's the only reason that Garnacho has been talked about for a sale, because of the money that you can get in for him. But Antony needs to go in the summer. Like, I get that. But if you're only getting, what, a few thousand a week in for his wage, then what's the point of letting him go and play somewhere else when Amorim could use him in the last 10, 20 minutes of a game, like we did at the Etihad, like we did yesterday against Southampton. Like, he's come on and done a job for us a couple of times under Amorim. Nothing special, but he gives an attacking outlet, and sometimes we need that. And if you're not going to get any money for him, you might as well just keep him around until the end of the season, until you come up with a permanent solution and you can actually, hopefully, maybe get a sale in for him, and then his full wage gone. Don't get me wrong, you're never going to get somebody coming in offering a decent fee for Antony. You're always going to lose out on money, but in the summer you could at least actually get a permanent sale out away from the club. Ruben Amorim also got asked about training sessions and energy levels and fatigue and everything like that, and he said it's going to be hard until the end of the season. It will be a little bit of a roller coaster. Then it depends on the time we have to train. We are still in the cup, we have Europa League games, and then it's also important to focus on the Rangers game, because if we win, we take 2 games off our schedule and then we can have a full week. So again, emphasising to the fans, it's going to be a rocky road. We are going to have more bad results. We have multiple games. We don't have much time to train. And at the end of the day, we cannot rely on a bit of Ahmad brilliance and Onana turning up every single week to win us games. We would have lost yesterday if it wasn't for Onana having a very good game and Ahmad's brilliance. We would have lost to a team that has 6 points on the board in the Premier League. We would have lost at home. There will be more rocky results. There is going to be. That's not going to happen every single time. Can we rely on Onana to be top tier every week? Probably not. Like, we've seen he goes through phases of being top and then having a few shaky games. Can you rely on Ahmad to pull out a 12-minute hat-trick every week? No, you can't. When we have multiple games a week, the fatigue creeps in to the players. This is what Ruben Amorim's trying to say. We had Arsenal, and you see against Southampton, the fatigue is there. We're not completely doing the right things. We're trying, but we're not completely doing the right things. You have a week off between games like we did Liverpool and Arsenal. You see the higher intensity of these players. You see the levels go up. We don't have players that can do it multiple times a week. And also, within the space of that, you have the training sessions as well for Ruben Amorim to work with the players. And I also think that we're not as good when we're not playing on the transition. When we are asked to take the ball to a team and be the more dominant team at Old Trafford and consistently build up our attack and create chances, this team struggles. Ruben Amorim speaks about that a little bit later on in his press conference as well, which I'll get into in a second. We have Ethan JP saying we cannot loan Rashford, we must sell him soon. We might have no choice. We might have no choice because, again, this is a thing with contracts as well. Alejandro Garnacho is easier to sell because he's not on a massive contract. Nobody wants to pay for Marcus Rashford, who's on 300 grand a week. Like, nobody wants to pay him 300 grand a week. And then you'd have to subsidise his wages. Then Manchester United aren't really getting much money in return. Until the summer, in a seller's market, a January sale is not on the cards for Marcus Rashford. It's already been put out there. It's going to be a loan. So as much as you'd want a sale and you want to bring the money in, his wage prevents that. Paul says, Beth on overtime duty. Goldbridge deserves a little bit of time off. I think he's gone. I don't know where he's gone. He's gone to probably talk to himself in the forest. He's so fuming about the Garnacho stuff. He's had to take a little bit of time out, or else who knows what he'd be saying live on air. But he will be back for the 8 p.m. show. We also have Ruben Amorim saying we've had like 7 training sessions together in 14/15 games. It's really hard, but we have to continue to try and win. Sometimes playing good, sometimes playing bad, but we will try to win games. Again, warning the fans. There are going to be more rocky results. We don't have much training. Be patient, stay with us. It's going to be hard until the end of the season. He then gets asked, I was watching the press conference and a journalist asked, is it concerning to you that we bought Ugarte for £50 million and he struggles to play 2 games a week? Because you talk about players being fatigued and not having, the energy to play 2 games a week. Is that concerning? And I thought that was a really... it was a question I wouldn't have expected to be asked. And again, it's like Ugarte's probably been one of our best players under Amorim, first name on the team sheet, yet he's the guy that's being picked out in a press conference. Like, no mention of anybody else. Like, directly, is it a concern that Ugarte can't play 2 games a week? There's multiple other players that got subbed and aren't turning up either, but you go to Ugarte, who's been like our best performing player. I just thought that was strange to pick him out. And Amorim defends his player, which I was very happy with. He said, "I'm trying to be honest with you," talking to the media. "I am open and honest about the game, and you are focusing on my comments about Ugarte. Ugarte did a great job against Liverpool and against Arsenal. You see, if you look at the Liverpool game, Ugarte and Bruno were probably the best 2 players. They didn't play against Newcastle." Basically saying that break of not playing against Newcastle allowed them to get their energy back up, and they were the best performing players. It's not a coincidence. He mentioned that in this game, there were players suffering from that fatigue, but the journalist that asked that question just picked out Ugarte and mentioned his price tag, which I thought was really strange because, again, I've spoken about Ugarte multiple times. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves from the media and from the mainstream and from rival opposition fans. I don't know why, because he's been absolutely spectacular under Amorim. Yesterday was probably his worst game under Amorim, and I still thought he had a decent game. He just looked absolutely knackered, which is why Ruben Amorim said he had to take him off to protect him. So, yeah, it was one of them. Ruben Amorim also, I love this. I loved hearing this because I'm happy, by the way. I am not ever going to sit on this channel or ever and proclaim I am a football expert. I have my opinions, but just like you guys, you know, we talk about it. It's like when you talk about football down the pub with your friends. I try my best to, you know, analyse as much as I can, have my own opinions, share them with you guys, and I will never hold back. But Ruben Amorim knows 10 times more than any of us, in my opinion, obviously a coach at that level. So when I listen to him talk about the game, I love it because he speaks so well and he actually gives you detail. And that's what he means when he says he talks about being open and honest. And this next quote I really liked. It might just be me, but he said, "It's also my fault because you lose the timing of the pressure. If you don't explain well the pressure, it is always lost. You felt it against Southampton. De Ligt was feeling it a lot against their number 7. He was also creating a lot of problems for Mainoo because he was running against 2 guys. It's more my fault than his fault. He will get used to it." So then, basically pointing out, because I tweeted in the game that Mainoo and Ugarte were struggling in there together because they were getting overran. It was 2 of them, basically, against their whole midfield, and we just kept getting played through, and Ugarte and Mainoo just couldn't cover enough ground that was needed, purely because, one, they both were probably fatigued from the Arsenal game, but 2 players against the amount of players Southampton had on us, you could have had prime Rodri and prime Kante in there together and they probably would have struggled 2 against like 4 at a time. Like, it's difficult. So I was saying Bruno and Garnacho really need to drop in and help out. I kept saying Bruno and Garnacho really need to drop in and help out. Like, Ugarte and Mainoo are literally on their own. Like, they might be fatigued, but, you know, even at full fitness, they're going to struggle. Just like Ricky was saying on the fans forum, but Ruben Amorim's pointed out that De Ligt maybe should have pushed up a little bit more and helped Mainoo so Mainoo wasn't having to deal with 2 guys on him at once. I thought De Ligt had a fantastic game. I walked away from it saying De Ligt was probably one of our best players after Onana and Ahmad. Like, I thought De Ligt was probably the only other player that could hold his head high. I thought everybody else had pretty much had stinkers. But Amorim isn't going in on De Ligt here. He's just saying he'll get used to it. He struggled against the number 7 and it left Mainoo with two men on him. So I like to hear Ruben Amorim's comments on that because when I was watching the game, I didn't see that. And now I'm looking at it being like, and somebody put in a super chat this morning saying, do you think Ruben Amorim will look at centre-backs because, and that's why he's playing defensive wing-backs because he doesn't trust his centre-backs right now to push up as much as they need to. And when I was watching Ruben Amorim's Sporting side when it was fully functioning, their centre-backs did push up and they were straight onto the press, straight onto the forward players. And we have seen us do that. Maguire and De Ligt did that against Arsenal and against Liverpool, and Martinez did that too. Against Southampton, I think Amorim's saying we were just a little bit slower, maybe because of the mental fatigue and the physical fatigue, and we just didn't push up as much as we should, and that left Ugarte and Mainoo struggling in the midfield. And I think it's a really interesting perspective because I saw it as Garnacho and Bruno maybe needed to drop in a bit more when in reality the defensive line needed to push up. So I like that. That's why I like hearing Ruben Amorim because, you know, when we've had previous managers, sometimes they don't go into the detail of what's missing and he actually speaks about the detail of the game, which I like. And then Amorim also said, they are our players. The context on this, Amorim gets asked about movement in the transfer window. He says, these are our players. We have to control who leave or stays. Sometimes it's harder for the players because sometimes they have information on their futures. For me, it's harder to prepare the game when we lose. When we win, we can manage everything, the expectations, the mood for some players. We can just focus on the next game. Found that interesting because Joshua Zirkzee's obviously had a little bit of distractions away from Manchester United, and maybe now he's cemented his future as staying at Manchester United is why you're seeing better performances from him. Because the last few games, Joshua Zirkzee's come on to the pitch and had really good games for Manchester United. He's affected the game and a lot of people are saying he should start. Maybe that's because he made a decision on his future that he's going to stay. So he's more focused on Manchester United and he doesn't have information about how he might be moving to Juventus. Just a thought, just a theory, because Fabrizio Romano did put out around Joshua Zirkzee, and he put this out this morning on his YouTube channel, just trying to find the quote here. He said, let's bring it up. Okay, here we go. Fabrizio Romano, a few hours ago on his YouTube channel, before signing Randal Kolo Muani on loan, Juventus sent a formal offer to Manchester United for Joshua Zirkzee, a loan with the option to buy. United shut the door to that offer and opted to keep Zirkzee. The player then confirmed his intention to stay. So maybe Zirkzee's, started to get off to the races and look like a better player in recent times. I think everyone knew, from Bologna, there was a player in there. There was a player in there. It's just whether he was suited to the Premier League and whether he could suit this system and the way that Amorim's trying to play. But over the last few games, he's come off the bench and had a really good impact and looked a lot better. Is it because his head is now firmly in the game? Because he'd only been here for a couple of months and there was already circulation in Italy that Zirkzee wanted to leave, he wanted to go back to Juventus, Juventus were interested, and Romano has literally come out there and cemented the fact that Juventus did send a formal offer to Manchester United for Zirkzee. And I don't think they would have done that if they didn't have some sort of inclination from the players' camp that he was open to the move. So clearly Ruben Amorim and Joshua Zirkzee have had a conversation and decided to continue together. And the players obviously got that confidence from Amorim and he's decided his future is at Manchester United. So now he can focus on that. But it is concerning that he wanted to leave. Well, I'm not saying he wanted to, but it is concerning that there was a potential that he was going to leave so early on in his Manchester United career. You've got to give it more than a couple of months. You've got to. You should adapt into a new league, adapt into a new manager, two new managers, adapting to life in England. There's so many different factors. So I'm glad he's decided to stay. Maybe Manchester United looked at it and thought, for the money that we're going to get in for him, and the money it'd cost to replace him, because we'd have to buy another striker. We just don't have enough. Just Rasmus on his own for the rest of the season would not have been enough. Maybe they thought about it. It's not worth the squeeze. You know what I mean? The juice isn't worth the squeeze. Is that the statement? It's not worth sending him on loan for an obligation to buy. So then I have to try and bring someone in. It wasn't worth it. We might as well keep Zirkzee. Maybe they looked at it that way. But there was actually a potential of Zirkzee leaving, but he is staying at Manchester United right now. So what do you make of that? Do you have concerns over Zirkzee in the future that he might, his head might come out the game and he might want to leave again and go back to Italy, or do you have faith in him now? Because is it a coincidence that since he confirmed his future at Manchester United, he started playing better? Amorim also got asked on Manchester United's struggle at set pieces. He said, against Southampton, it seems like a simple header, clearance. Sometimes in the moment, it feels like everything is against you. In the end, things change, but we have to improve. We played against maybe the best team on the world in set pieces, Arsenal. This season is going to be a roller coaster. We have to improve in all areas of our game. Again, mentioning the roller coaster, preparing the fans, they are going to be peaks and troughs. Do not be surprised if we come crashing down against Brighton. Don't want to be negative, but there is going to be difficult results this season. There's going to be performances that are up and down because Ruben Amorim needs the time on the training ground with these players. He needs to bring players in. It's really tough to do it midway through a season. Amorim also got asked if he's concerned about Rasmus Hojlund's lack of goals, and this is what Amorim had to say, giving confidence to his player. He said, I think it's a team problem. It's not just from now, it's also from the past. We clearly have a lack of goals and threat. When you tread the opponents, maybe they don't press so high. Everything is connected. Every player has moments in a season. I think when we started together, Rasmus was the player that was always scoring. He can come back in the next game. We will see. It's more of a team problem than a player one. So again, backing Rasmus Hojlund. To be honest, he has no other choice because he doesn't really have much option until the end of the season. But I do partly agree with Ruben Amorim. It's not just Rasmus Hojlund. Like, that's the reason we're not scoring goals. It's not just his problem. But at the same time, he does need to improve. He does need to get himself into better positions. And we do need a higher level striker looking into the summer window. We do. But it's not just all on Rasmus. And I feel like sometimes fans just want to scapegoat one player, and that's not the case. At this moment in time, though, I would start Zirkzee in the next game just because I feel like he's offered a little bit more. But I think it's nice to see Ruben Amorim coming out and defending his player. He is only 22 and he needs confidence. Forward players a lot of the time thrive off confidence, and I think Rasmus looks like a player that's playing with a lack of confidence right now, and he needs that confidence. Maybe that confidence will come with Zirkzee starting a few games on the bounce, giving him the opportunity to start a few games and gain some consistency, and then Hojlund can impact the game from the bench and maybe affect the game in a positive way, or maybe get a couple of goals that way. We've seen that happened towards the end of last season when Erik ten Hag was playing the false nine and Rasmus was coming on off the bench, and he seemed to do better that way, and he gained a bit of confidence. He was really important in that FA Cup final win, coming off the bench, impacting the game, holding up the ball. That's why I said this season I feel like he's regressed a little bit, and maybe he needs that time to regain his confidence and Ruben Amorim there saying it's a team problem also puts some burden onto the rest of his teammates who do need to be doing more as well. Amorim also said this, which I think, I can't believe this is the last quote, because I think this is a really good quote from Ruben Amorim, and it's exactly what we were saying on the fans forum and I was saying on the morning show. This is why I love listening to Ruben Amorim's press conference, because he sees what the fans are thinking, and obviously he knows it in much greater detail, but he's not afraid to say it. He said, in the past, Manchester United were a team of transition, and we still are. You can feel it. To create chances in the final third, we struggle a lot. But for that, it's the most difficult moment to train. It's a team that enjoys waiting for the play and then to transition and creating problems. So it's something we have to change, and we need training to win games in this way. So Ruben Amorim there speaking about how this team basically, in a nice way, called them Counter-Attack FC, which we've called ourselves before. In a nice way, he said Manchester United are the biggest threat is scoring goals when we're playing on the counter-attack, backs against the wall. When we are asked to build up play in the final third, keep hold of the ball and create patterns of play to create goals, we massively struggle. We struggle. Ruben Amorim's identified that multiple times, and he's basically just called us out for being Counter-Attack FC there. And I literally tweeted an hour ago, actually. I tweeted it 12:09. Tough pill to swallow, but a lot of the squad isn't suited to keeping the possession, especially in the final third. A big reason why we struggle against the so-called lower teams. Amorim will need to bring players in, which means some of the favourites will either become squad players or sold, or some of them will need to adapt. But it's very hard. It's very, very hard. Ruben Amorim speaks about training there, but I think it's very hard to make a player that isn't used to being good at holding the ball in tight spaces and under pressure become that. Like, how many times have we said our team sometimes treats the ball like it's a ticking time bomb? We have got better at it under Ruben Amorim, but there's certain players in the team that are just naturally better at it. Zirkzee's one of them, Eriksen's one of them, Kobbie Mainoo's good at it. Like, Majraoui can hold the ball well. Like, you have players that are Lissandro Martinez, you have players that are better at holding the ball than others. You have some players that just aren't great in them when they're being pressed. And in them tight spaces at holding the ball. It's something we have to work on in training, but it's a hard one to develop. It's a hard one to develop, and that's why in the final third, Ahmad is another one who's good at it in terms of keeping the ball. The ball sticks to him like glue. He always finds a red shirt most of the time. It's hard to build up play and create multiple turnovers and multiple patterns of play in the final third when you have a team that struggles to keep hold of the ball. That's why in terms of when he says we're a team used to playing in transition, and that's where Manchester United are often at their highest threat, and that's something that we need to change. So I thought that was an interesting take from Ruben Amorim, and I thought he was spot on as well. Tom, welcome to the United Stand Members Club. But that was all for Ruben Amorim's press conference. Get in the comments down below all your thoughts. Again, I say it every single time, but I love covering a press conference reaction from Ruben Amorim because he just speaks so well. He just speaks so well, and I enjoy listening to him. And I learn stuff every time I listen to him. And that's what I like. So thank you very much for watching. Get your score predictions in for the Brighton game. Any changes you would make. Brighton game, I think Zirkzee has to start. I think Maguire has to come back in. Wing backs will be interesting. I'd like to play with Ahmad at wing back, or even an Antony there potentially. I just want at least one attacking wing back, I'm going to be honest. I don't really want to go back to Dalot and Mazraoui. I feel like Amorim might do that though. Brighton are a very strong team, and Matoma is strong. They have other strong players as well, but it's going to be a really tough game at Old Trafford, and I'm prepared for that. And we need to massively book up our ideas and improve our performance if we want to get a result against Brighton. But thank you for watching, everyone. Have a lovely weekend. I will next see you for Countdown to Kickoff on Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goldbridge will be back for the evening show previewing the Brighton game. Any breaking news, and by the way, beware for it, because Ornstein's out there talking about Garnacho and Chelsea, and that worries me to death. But get in the comments down below your thoughts on that. Would you sell Garnacho to a rival? Let me know. Hit a like on the video on your way out, and I will see you on the next one.